Alright, welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. Today you can see we're here at another unique place. This is Courchevel in France. The mountain ranges in the background are quite a spectacular vista, and we are headed a very short handful of miles away just over this mountain ridge here to a place called Meribel Airport. It's an identifier of Lima Foxtrot Kilo X-ray. Of course, Courchevel here is Lima Foxtrot, Lima Juliet. And the reason I wanted to make this video is simply because I found this Urbex Airport in the Microsoft Flight Simulator in-store marketplace, and I figured it was worth a try. Let me go ahead and throw a little bit of the details from the store directly up on the screen now. Yep, you got it. Feel free to pause the video and check that out if you want to in more detail, read up a little bit about it, but it is an awesome location and is excellently priced, of course, for what you get. It's a small airport, but it offers a very flavorful approach, in my opinion, and it is the reason behind this video because, like I said before, I've flown into very unique, infamous approaches in this simulator before, namely one here, Courchevel. Meribel seems to be right up there with the most difficult approaches that I've ever tried in the simulator, at least, including at the foothills of Everest there, that familiar airport everybody says is called Lukla. That identifier is Victor November Lima Kilo, and if you haven't been there, which I'm sure you have if you tried the landing challenges, you know just how unique of an approach and how demanding that is for concentration. Well, I figured might as well make a video because I did discover Meribel Airport just over the bridge there, and it is indeed one of the more challenging approaches I've ever tried. It is, if not harder than Lukla, at least just as hard. So it is worth checking out, at least in this video, or even maybe going in and giving it a try yourself in the simulator. So with that in mind, you can see we have an average cloud top, not going to affect us today. So let's go ahead and hop on board. As always, thank you for joining me here on AOK Games. Let's get this show on the road. And just like that, welcome to the cabin of the pilot in command position on the Kodiak 100. First things first, of course I always open the window on the left there for some fresh air in this simulated environment. What I want to do to begin is turn the fuel flow from the firewall into the on position so that we can get gasoline into the engine, and I'm going to flip the knob here for the right-hand fuel tank so that we can get some fuel going as we start up. So first thing beyond that, let's go ahead and hop on down here to the controls quadrant of the aircraft, and we should bring the propeller up into full forward range. I'm going to leave the flaps alone now, and I'm also going to leave the engine fuel mixture condition lever as it is, just leaving it alone. So with that in mind, let's turn on the batteries. We'll get the aircraft up and running in no time. As I said, the prep is mostly what this video is about, as this is a very short handful of miles where we have to go as our destination. The AHRS computer is aligning. That way we know where we are on planet Earth in the event of a GPS emergency, if we have to pick an alternate route or anything to an accessory airport somewhere else other than where we went ahead. So I'm also going to zoom out here and look around and make sure that, you know, we don't have any people in the area in the danger of us starting this engine with our propeller and everything. We are in engine inlet normal mode, as you can see in our crew alerting system right here. So let's leave that alone for now. That's where we want to be in normal. I'll leave the pitot left and right off, but I'm going to signify our about to be busy status here with turning on some positioning lights. Of course, you notice I have impulse right now. That just during the day makes us a little bit more visible, of course. Always a good thing. I'm going to bring our auxiliary fuel pump from standby to on, and then we're going to go ahead and rotate this engine and look for a positive start off. We're looking for T's and P's, temperatures and pressures. Make sure that it is all in the green. Avionics buses can come on. We won't worry about climate control for now. Let's go ahead and get that start going. So there's the T's and P's. NG rise. We're going to introduce fuel to low idle. And we go on from high, and I'll just pull that back a little bit. We're watching for T's and P's. Inlet turbine temperature. We've got fuel flow. We've got fuel pressure, and we've also got engine oil pressure rising as well. So it looks like our temperatures are coming back down and normalizing. That's a good thing. Seems like a successful light off. I'll close the window, remove the starter, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring the auxiliary pump back to standby. It seems that we have a stabilized running engine now. Let's go ahead and turn on our generators and our alternators. Good time to grab the pitot heat right and left. I'll leave the landing lights off, no pulse for now. Gonna reach up here, turn on the left-hand fuel shutoff so that we can get gasoline from our left and right tanks. Let's go ahead before we start moving on the tarmac here and make sure that we have a transponder which is transponding, sending in and receiving. So we're squawking 7000 Unicom in altimeter setting mode. That's good for me. And we're down here, and as I said, we are going very, very close. As you can see, that actually is an F, so Lima Foxtrot Kilo X-ray. We're going to basically be turning left up the valley into that place just as we take off, so it's not far at all. Let's go ahead and check our ELT here, emergency locator transmitter. And let's make sure we have plenty of oxygen, even though we are not going to oxygen required altitudes now. I'm going to turn on the climate controls, passengers and pilots automatic. Not a problem. With that all done, all we have in our crew alerting system here is engine inlet normal. That's what I want to see. Good time to turn the yoke back on. And what I want to do now is go ahead and throw in 10 degrees flaps for takeoff. Check my trims for aileron and rudder. I've got a little bit of right rudder in there to offset the engine torque. And I'm going to go ahead and announce a taxi. It's basically going to tell us that we're taxiing to the runway, but in the real world, what I would like to say is call out, Kodiak 100, Kilo Quebec, 9 Kilo Quebec rather, traveling over to a run-up area and subsequently going for takeoff departure straight out. But because that is not available on ATC, let's just pretend that we went ahead and said that anyway. So, area is clear, parking brakes have been removed. Let's go ahead and taxi across the runway here and get to the engine run-up area so that I can make sure everything's functioning well with the propeller and that we do have reverse thrust, because there's a very possible scenario during landing where I may actually need to use reverse thrust. I'm always generally landing on runways that are long enough where I don't require reverse thrust, but you're going to see just how quickly the airport approach kind of creeps up on us here. So that being said, I'm going to just taxi up here to the left, swing a U-turn, and do the run-up. Of course, always remembering that there could always be people or aircraft around, so we don't want to be worried about propeller blast or jet wash or anything like that behind us, knocking people over, so on and so forth, flipping over airplanes, none of the kind. Okay, fantastic. So before I forget, I'm just going to go ahead and turn our auxiliary fuel pump to the on position, which it will stay at the entire flight because of how short this is. Let's go ahead and bring land lights to pulse, and then I'm going to go ahead and bring the engine fuel control lever up to flight condition here. Okay, fantastic. So let's check our propeller and let's check our reverse thrust. First on the list, propeller. Getting a good chunk of RPM there. And I'm going to pull out the blue lever pitch a little bit. It will cause our torque to rise, so you have to be very careful with this turboprop engine not to over torque the engine. Big expensive bills can cause significant damage. And you can hear the pitch change in the propeller. So we know that our propeller governors and everything that changes those systems about with our propeller pitch are working indeed. Okay, let's come back to idle, and we have one last thing to check. That'll be reverse thrust. Let's go ahead and initiate that now, and then slide into reverse here. And we do have that reverse thrust condition working. Okay, so one final check, T's and P's. Everything's in the green, everything's looking A-okay. Remove the yoke real quick. We got all of our indicating lights on as to where we are and what we're doing. As I said, generator, alternator, everything's on. And we're ready to call a takeoff. So we're going to depart straight out.
Foxtrot Lima Juliet traffic November 269er.
There is no incoming aircraft on final. Now is our time to make our escape. Going to taxi a little bit further back, is to use more of the runway, of course. We got extra strip, no reason not to use it. And like I said, this whole video is all about just letting everybody know that places like this do exist in the real world, obviously, of course, and in the marketplace for DLC. Orbix always does a good job, in my opinion, of releasing content. Their airports are very, very high detail, and you'll see just how unique this approach is that we're about to fly shortly here. So everything's good. Let's go ahead and turn the landing lights completely on, take them out of pulse. Everything's full forward, make sure it's good. Flaps are set, pumps are on, fuel shutoffs are in the on position, and it is time to go. And there's Courchevel for you. Heck of an airport, no? Let's make that rotation. Of course, in the center screen, I can point your attention to the relative terrain radar there, letting us know about the peaks we are clear of, the ones we should be cautionary of, and the ones that we're not higher than, obviously from green to red. That don't sink was the ground proximity warning sensor, letting us know that we are in fact near some trees. So not a problem as long as we do not lose our engine on departure. It's a very short flight today, so what I'm going to do is leave the standby fuel pump in the on position as well as the landing light. I'll go ahead and just remove the taxi light for argument's sake. And I'm just quickly working on removing flaps, cleaning the aircraft up to fly straight and level without any yoke or rudder input, because I want this approach to be as clean as possible, since it is indeed at the very last moments hectic, to say the least. It kind of comes at you real quick. Things start happening the closer you get, and you feel like you have a lot of time to make adjustments, and then all of a sudden the runway threshold is there. So I'm going to go ahead and call them at Meribel, Lima Foxtrot Kilo X-Ray. Select the runway for landing. There's only one way to approach, you'll see. Runway 330 at 330 degrees. And we're going to announce our position.
Lima Foxtrot Kilo X-Ray traffic November 269er Kilo Quebec 3 miles northeast, 7,600
flaps
feet
are
inbound to land runway
already
15.
removed, so let's bring the power lever back to a more continuous position. Bring the propeller RPM down just a little bit, about 2100. I'll tell you, if you don't have this plane in your inventory, definitely worth considering. I love this aircraft. So we're going to swing a little bit wide. As you can see, there is our runway right there. And just for my own visual reference, I'm going to go ahead and plug in Lima Foxtrot Kilo X-Ray so that I have a magenta line just to look at for my own navigational needs, or wants, that is. And clearly we're not at sea level. As you can see, we're already approaching 8,460 feet indicated. And I'm going to start making that left-hand turn. And just off our left wingtip there, you can see right near that pitot heat probe towards the tip, just above it is where, right about there is where our airport is. So you can see, It's very similar to Lukla. You can't really make a mistake for a go-around. Suppose you could if you had enough horsepower, but we like to get things right the first time here. So, with that in mind, we're going to already be pulling back our power, and I'm going to go ahead, stay ahead of the aircraft here, call out that we're on final, so that things don't get too stressful on this approach.
Is on final runway 15 to land.
And I am already back at flight idle. Of course, there's the runway coming in the view there at about the 11 o'clock position. Very, very small. Of course, it's penned in by trees. And if I'm not incorrect, I believe there's actually a drop-off just before the runway threshold, which you can kind of see there right off of the nose, where cars pass under. So, very, very interesting. I know it doesn't look like much maybe from here, but I would encourage anybody out there watching this video to give this a try. It is definitely worth trying to fly this approach. I find it to be just as challenging for me as Lukla. Of course, I'm sure you can hear that wind noise flowing over the wings and hitting the flaps quite loud. Let's go ahead. Used our booster seat there for picking up our eye height level a little bit. I'm going to try to come in around 70 to 75 knots for this. And that clicking you hear is me trimming out the aircraft with the power and trim settings so that I do not have to fight controls here when we start getting down to the wire. As I said, very short video, but hopefully you will consider throwing a like, and if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing. Also hit the bell. It'll let you know when I upload videos so that you can see all my most recent stuff. Again, I'll throw my playlist up in the top right at the end of the video. But for now, let's just enjoy this approach. I'm going to make sure that I throw my propeller pitch full forward there. Give us all available propeller pitch and power. And you can see when you start coming in on this approach here, it kind of starts getting real close. I don't know why, but I find this highly challenging. Let's go ahead and pull back to flight idle. And we're down. And there's a little bit of your reverse thrust. Let's get back to the center. And I'm going to reach down here and come back to low idle. Let's bring our flaps up while we have the chance. Clear the runway. And we'll turn the landing lights off and put our taxi lights on. Let's go ahead and bring our fuel pump to standby, and then let's see if we can get an announcement here that we're clear.
Lima Foxtrot Kilo X-ray traffic November 269er Kilo Quebec is clear of the runway.
And here we are. Meribel. So let's go ahead and pull up a little closer. Of course, if you're flying in here, a lot of the parking is grass strip. But it appears as though, obviously, they do have hangars. I'm not going to get too close because I wouldn't want the fine people hanging out here in this lodge or whatever it is to have to listen to too much propeller noise. So we are at low idle. Let's go ahead and work on closing out this aircraft. So first thing I'm going to do is I'll turn the taxi lights off, reposition my camera angles there. Let's get the strobe out of people's eyes. We can turn the pitos off because we're not going to need indicated airspeed or anything like that anymore. Nav lights, and let's go ahead and chop the throttle. Bring our propeller back to idle. Of course, we're going to remove the generator, the alternator. Let's reach on over here, get rid of the climate control, and let's bring our propeller into full feather. Of course, still removing lights here. That is turning off. Let's get some, as always, fresh air into the cabin here. Auxiliary fuel pump to the full off position. I'm going to remove the auxiliary bus, the avionics bus, and we'll turn the battery off. Let's go ahead and remove the firewall fuel. Let's remove the left-hand tank and the right-hand tank. And that'll basically conclude our video for today. So thank you for joining me. Like I said, I appreciate your time, and we'll see you in the next video. I encourage you to try this airport, and if you do, write in the comments. Let me know how you feel about it. Till next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.